while you were checking your savings account last month, while you were debating whether to buy that new phone or pay down credit cards, the world's most powerful bankers were buying something else entirely. Something you've never even heard of. Something that tells a story they desperately don't want you to understand. This isn't about stocks. This isn't about crypto. This is about the silent exodus of wealth happening right now, right under your nose, and the chilling pattern emerging from the shadows of global finance. In October of 2024, a curious transaction appeared in the filings of a small Swiss asset management firm. $17 billion moved in a single week. Not into markets, not into bonds, into something the average person can't touch, can't access, can't even pronounce without a lawyer present. Farmland water rights in remote regions of South America. Underground mineral deposits that won't be touched for decades. Climate-resistant seed vaults in Scandinavia. And here's what makes your blood run cold. These weren't speculative bets. These were insurance policies, bets against the very system these bankers helped build. Think about that for a moment. The architects of our financial world, the men who sit in boardrooms overlooking Manhattan, the women who control pension funds worth trillions. They're not buying what they're selling you. They're buying the opposite. They're buying survival. But this story doesn't start last month. It starts in a place you'd never expect. A place where the same pattern emerged before and destroyed an empire in less than a generation. Rome, 307. The wealthiest patricians in the Eternal City began doing something strange. They stopped investing in Roman infrastructure, stopped buying land near the capital. Instead, they purchased estates in distant provinces, Gaul, Hispania, even barbarian territories. Beyond the Rhine, they moved their gold out of imperial vaults and into private hoards, buried in places the tax collectors couldn't find. The common people didn't notice. Why would they? The Colosseum still hosted games. The markets still buzzed with trade. Bread and circuses continued. Everything seemed normal, but the elites knew something the crowds didn't. They had access to information from the frontiers. Reports of legions crumbling. Accounts of provincial governors hoarding grain instead of shipping it to Rome. Whispers of Germanic tribes massing in numbers never seen before. Within 40 years, Rome fell. And those patricians who had quietly moved their wealth, they became the new feudal lords of medieval Europe. They didn't just survive the collapse, they profited from it. They engineered their escape while everyone else drowned in the chaos. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes with a rhythm so precise, it sounds like a funeral march. Fast forward to 1928. Wall Street is booming. The Dow Jones has tripled in 5 years. Everyone is buying stocks. Cab drivers are giving investment tips. Shoeshine boys are trading on margin. It's a golden age of American prosperity. But behind closed doors, in the private offices of J.P. Morgan, in the Manhattan townhouses of the Rockefellers, something else is happening. The smartest money in America is quietly selling, liquidating positions, converting paper wealth into tangible assets, gold, land, foreign currencies. Joseph Kennedy, father of the future president, supposedly got his final warning from that shoeshine boy. When the person polishing your shoes starts giving you stock tips, the game's over. He sold everything. Converted to cash, preserved his fortune while millions of Americans lost theirs in the crash of 19. The pattern is always the same. The inner circle gets the memo, the outer circles get the bag, and here we are. 2024. The memo is being passed again. But this time, the exit is bigger, more coordinated, more terrifying in its implications. Last month alone. And these are just the transactions we can see through public filings and leaked documents. Major financial institutions moved over $200 billion into what industry insiders call post-collapse assets. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a category. They have a name for it. What are post-collapse assets? Glad you asked. They're investments that hold value even if the current financial system fails. Agricultural land that produces food regardless of stock prices. Water rights that matter more when cities run dry. Precious metals that shine brightest when currencies burn. Energy infrastructure that powers the world even when governments collapse. Goldman Sachs bought farmland in Ukraine, right before the war. BlackRock invested billions in water utilities across drought-prone regions. JP Morgan quietly accumulated physical gold reserves at levels not seen since the 1930s. These aren't diversification plays. These are lifeboats. But here's where it gets personal. Here's where you need to pay attention. Because while they're buying these assets, they're selling you something else entirely. They're selling you digital promises, index funds, ETFs, retirement accounts filled with paper that evaporates the moment confidence breaks. Ask yourself this question and really sit with it. Why would the people who manage trillions of dollars, the people with access to the best data, the deepest intelligence, the clearest view of what's coming, why would they buy things that only have value if the system fails? While encouraging you to buy things that only have value if the system succeeds, you already know the answer. You just don't want to believe it. The human mind has a beautiful defense mechanism. It's called normalcy bias. It's the reason people stayed in their homes during Katrina, even when they heard the warnings. Do you know why passengers on the Titanic refused to get into lifeboats, even as the ship was sinking? It's the same reason you might be feeling an uncomfortable tingle right now, thinking this doesn't apply to you. But let me show you the single most terrifying chart in modern finance. It's simple. 3 lines. First, the total value of global derivatives bets on bet stands at $640 trillion. That's 8 times the entire global economy. Second, the actual money supply in the world, about 90 trillion. And third, the value of all real assets, like stocks and bonds, maybe 200 trillion. See the problem. The bets are bigger than the game. The casino is writing tickets for chips that don't even exist. And when the music stops, the entire structure could collapse. If you want to see the full picture they're hiding, click that subscribe button. What comes next will change everything. We'll notice, everyone else will try to follow, and that's when the doors get blocked. When the system locks up, when the liquidity vanishes and the promises break and the paper burns, you think your retirement account is safe. It's a promise. You think your bank deposits are insured up to $250,000, assuming the FDIC can actually cover a systemic bank run. They have about $125 billion in their insurance fund. Total bank deposits in America, $18 trillion. Do the math. You think the government will step in, print more money? Sure, they will. They'll print until the currency is worthless. Just like Weimar Germany, just like Zimbabwe, just like Venezuela. They'll save the system by destroying the money. And when that happens, when the printing press runs hot and inflation devours your savings like a forest fire, those bankers with their farmland and their water rights and their gold, they'll be just fine. Better than fine. They'll own the new world. So what do? That's the question burning in your mind right now. What can you possibly do against forces this large? This coordinated ... this inevitable. First, you wake up. You stop believing the lies. You stop trusting the talking heads on financial television who tell you everything is fine while their bosses sell everything they own. You stop playing a game that's rigged against you. Second, you think like they think. You buy what they buy, not the stocks, not bonds, not digital promises, real things, tangible assets, land if you can afford it, silver if you can't afford gold, skills that matter when systems fail, food that stores, water that lasts, community that endures. Third, and this is the hardest part, you accept that the world you knew is ending. The comfortable certainty of guaranteed pensions and stable currencies and infinite growth, that world is already gone. You're just living in its ghost. The sooner you accept that ... the sooner you grieve it. The sooner you can start building for what comes next. Because something is coming next, it always does. After Rome fell, the Renaissance bloomed. After the medieval system collapsed, the modern world emerged. After every empire's end, something new begins. But the people who thrive in that new world, the ones who don't just survive but flourish, they're the ones who saw it coming, who prepared, who made the hard choices while everyone else clung to comforting delusions. Will you be one of them? Or will you be among the crowd still sitting in the theater, still watching the show? Even as the smoke gets thicker and the exits get crowded and the fire gets closer, That banker who bought farmland in Paraguay last month, he's not smarter than you. He's not braver than you. He just has access to information you don't. He sees the data, he knows the timeline, and he's acting on it. But now, now you've seen behind the curtain. Now you understand why the wealthiest people in the world are buying things that only matter if everything else fails. The question is, what will you do with that knowledge? History will remember this moment, the final years before the Great Reset, the last chance to move before the doors closed, the brief window when the information was available, when the exits were still open, when choices still mattered. Some people will look back with regret, wishing they'd listened, wishing they'd acted, wishing they'd trusted their instincts instead of the experts who were lying to them. Others will look back with grim satisfaction. They saw it coming. They prepared, they saved themselves and their families. They didn't get rich from the collapse, but they didn't get destroyed either. Which memory will be yours? The bankers have already decided. They've already moved. They've already secured their futures in a world without dollars, without stocks, without the system they helped create. They bought what matters. They sold what doesn't. They exited while the theater was still dark and the crowd was still calm. And if this revelation has opened your eyes, even a fraction, if you're starting to see the pattern they tried so hard to hide, then you need to see what we're uncovering next. Because what they bought last month is nothing compared to what they're planning for next year. The final pieces of the puzzle, the ultimate insurance policy, the thing they're hiding even from each other. Subscribe now. Turn on notifications, because in the next episode, we're going to show you the one asset class that every billionaire is secretly accumulating, the thing they'll kill to keep hidden, the final refuge when everything else burns. Your future depends on what you do in the next 60 seconds. Choose wisely. The exits are getting crowded.